Ladies and gentlemen, when a woman stops caring, it rarely happens all at once. It's a slow, silent process, and that's what makes it so powerful. Emotional withdrawal doesn't come with dramatic exits or loud arguments. It comes with quiet detachment. She stops asking where you are. She stops waiting up. She stops checking in or trying to be understood. And when that happens, it's no longer about anger or sadness, it's about exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion. The kind that drains her spirit and makes her realize that caring is costing her more than it's worth. At first, she may have fought hard passionately, maybe even desperately to save what was falling apart. She explained her feelings, tried to communicate, cried in the middle of the night, and begged to be heard. She hoped things would change. But each time her emotions were dismissed, minimized, or ignored, a part of her grew colder. Slowly, the fire she had for the relationship began to die out. And when a woman no longer burns with love, fear, or even anger, when she becomes numb, that's when you've truly lost her. People mistake silence for peace, but when a woman goes quiet, it's rarely because she's okay. It's because she's done. Done repeating herself. Done trying to fix things alone. Done being the only one who shows up emotionally. Her silence isn't the absence of feeling, it's the absence of hope. And without hope, there is no relationship to save. Emotional withdrawal is often invisible to the untrained eye. She might still smile. She might still cook dinner. She might still be physically present. But her heart is gone. Her mind is elsewhere. She's making plans, not arguments. She's thinking about escape, not reconciliation. She's protecting her peace because she finally understands that no one else will. And by the time anyone realizes it, she's already miles away emotionally. You can't reach her because she no longer wants to be reached. You can't fix it because she's no longer looking for solutions. And you can't apologize your way back in because the part of her that cared enough to be hurt no longer exists. That's what emotional withdrawal really is, a quiet ending. Not with a bang, but with a slow, steady unraveling. So many people realize too late that it wasn't the fights or the tears that meant it was over. It was the silence. The way she stopped caring. The way she stopped showing up in the relationship emotionally. When that happens, there's nothing left to save, not because she hates you, but because she finally started loving herself more. And that, right there, is when the story ends. Love doesn't die overnight. It fades slowly, quietly, over time often, while no one is paying attention. When a woman finally stops caring, it isn't because she woke up one morning and decided she was done. It's because she went to bed too many nights feeling alone, unloved, and unheard. It's because she gave all the chances she could give, until there was nothing left in her to give at all. In the beginning, her love was full of fire, passionate, hopeful, and forgiving. She believed in you, in the relationship, in the promises that were made. She didn't expect perfection, just effort. Just the kind of love she was willing to give in return. So she tried. She overlooked things. She had the tough conversations. She compromised. She showed up. She made excuses not because she was blind, but because she was invested. Because she loved you. But every time her feelings were invalidated, every time her needs were pushed aside, that love chipped away not in one big piece, but in 1,000 small, silent cracks. Every unanswered question, every ignored effort, every time she felt like she was begging just to be treated right, it all added up. And one day, without even realizing it, she woke up and didn't feel the same. She didn't leave right away. Women rarely do. She stayed. She hoped. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time you'd notice her silence, see the sadness in her eyes, or feel the shift in her energy. But time passed and nothing changed. And slowly her heart did what it had to do to protect itself and let go. The hardest part is she didn't want it to end. She didn't want to stop loving. She just reached a point where continuing to care was hurting her more than letting go. She realized love isn't supposed to feel like constantly proving your worth. Love isn't supposed to feel one-sided or draining or conditional. It's supposed to be mutual. It's supposed to feel safe. By the time she walks away, her decision is final not because she's cold, but because she's exhausted. She's cried the tears, played every memory in her mind, and fought the internal war between staying and leaving. And the truth is, she stayed long after the relationship stopped serving her. That's what people don't see. They think she gave up easily, but she didn't. She gave it her all, every last piece of herself. So no, love doesn't die overnight. It dies in silence, in the quiet moments when she stops being heard, stops being valued, and finally stops trying. And by the time she walks away, the love that once held everything together is already gone. Not because she stopped loving recklessly, but because she finally started loving herself deliberately. Indifference is the true sign that something is over. Passion, whether it shows up as love, frustration, excitement, or even conflict, means someone still cares. There's still an emotional charge, a connection, a desire to make things work, or at least to be understood. But when a woman becomes indifferent, when her emotions go flat and her energy goes quiet, that's when the relationship has truly ended. Not always in action, but in spirit. At one time, she used to care so deeply. Every word you said, every look you gave, every small shift in your mood, she noticed it all. She paid attention because she loved you. Her heart was invested. She used to light up when you walked into the room or feel butterflies at the sound of your voice. Even during arguments, her emotions came from a place of wanting to be closer to you, wanting to be heard, wanting to fix what felt broken. That was passion, raw, messy, real, but it meant something was still there. Then slowly, everything started to change. The more she tried and felt ignored, the more she expressed her needs and was met with resistance or coldness, the more distant she became. Not all at once. It happened little by little. Her voice got softer. Her texts got shorter. Her reactions became neutral. What once would have sparked a fire in her barely registered anymore. You could come home late, cancel plans, raise your voice, and where she once would have cried or confronted you, now she simply shrugs. That's not peace, that's indifference. And indifference is dangerous. It's not loud or dramatic, it's silent and irreversible. When she reaches that point, she no longer wants to change anything. Not you, not the situation, not even herself. She just wants out. The truth is, it takes a lot to get there. It takes repeated disappointment, broken trust and isolation, and the feeling of constantly pouring into someone who doesn't pour back. But once she reaches it, there's no turning back. You might try to reignite the spark, say the right things, plan a date, make promises, but none of it lands the same because her heart isn't in it anymore. And she's not being cold to hurt you. She's being distant because she's already grieved the loss of the relationship, even while she was still in it. She already mourned the passion. She already said goodbye in her mind and heart long before her body walked away. Indifference replaces passion when the fire that once fueled the relationship has nothing left to burn. She's tired. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She's tired of feeling like she's fighting for something that no longer fights for her. And once she hits that level of detachment, no apology, no grand gesture, no sudden attention will change her mind. Because by then she's finally realized that love should feel like home, not like a battlefield. And she's done living in a war zone, pretending it's a safe place. There comes a moment in every broken relationship when the power shifts, and it usually happens when a woman finally stops caring. Up until that point, she may have spent months or even years chasing emotional clarity, trying to hold things together, bending over backward to be enough, to fix what was broken, to be heard. But once she's done, truly done, something changes inside her. It's not loud or dramatic. It's not fueled by rage or revenge. It's quiet, calm, and deeply powerful. That's the shift. That's when the woman who once begged you to love her right starts loving herself instead. When she was still emotionally invested, you had the upper hand. Her love gave you room to make mistakes, take her for granted, and test her boundaries. You knew she cared, so you felt secure. Maybe you thought she'd always be there. You confused her patience with permanence and her loyalty with weakness. But what many fail to understand is that the woman who cries, fights, and begs is still in the relationship. The woman who gets quiet, who stops explaining, who no longer reacts, she's already gone. The power shift isn't about control. It's about self-respect. The moment she realizes she deserves more, the dynamic changes entirely. She stops waiting for you to see her. She stops trying to earn your love. She stops prioritizing your comfort over her own needs. And suddenly the things you once had control over, her time, her attention, her heart, are no longer in your hands. You can feel it. The energy shifts. The tension you once brushed off starts to weigh heavy because you realize she's no longer emotionally accessible. This isn't about ego. It's not a game. It's about survival, emotional survival. She's tired of being in a relationship that feels more like a burden than a blessing. She's tired of proving her worth in a place that should have seen her value from the beginning. So she pulls back. She reclaims her power, not by yelling or blaming, but by disengaging. And in that disconnection, she finds peace. She finds clarity. She finds herself again. Now you're the one noticing her distance. You're the one asking questions, making the effort, maybe even feeling desperate. But it's too late. The power you once had was a reflection of her love, not your control. And now that love is no longer fueling the relationship, you're left with the reality of what it actually was without her effort. The power shift is the turning point. It's when she no longer lives in hope or fantasy, but in truth. And that truth sets her free. Free to stop settling. Free to stop shrinking. Free to walk away without apology. When a woman reclaims her power, she doesn't need closure or chaos, she needs distance. And in that distance, she finally remembers who she was before she started dimming her light for someone who never deserved her shine. There's a painful truth in relationships that people often learn too late once a woman has stopped caring. No amount of effort can undo the damage that's already been done. The gestures that would have meant everything at one point now feel empty. The apologies, the sudden texts, the surprise gifts, the promises to change, they all come after the emotional door has already been closed. It's not that she's being cold or unforgiving. It's that she gave you countless chances when it mattered. And now she's finally given herself one. Attempts to fix things usually come after she's already disconnected. You might notice her pulling away, growing distant, becoming quieter, but in the beginning, it was her voice you ignored. It was her pain you dismissed. It was her effort you took for granted. She tried to tell you in 100 different ways that she was hurting, that she was tired, that something needed to change. But you weren't really listening. You thought she'd always be there, thought she'd always come back, thought you had more time. And so you did nothing until she did the one thing you never expected. She let go. Now the flowers arrive, the messages pour in, the grand gestures begin. But none of it lands the same. Not because she's bitter, but because her heart isn't in the same place. The version of her that would have melted at your effort no longer exists. She's not being stubborn, she's being honest with herself. Because she knows now that if it took losing her for you to finally see her worth, then you never really saw her to begin with. She waited for you. Not just physically, but emotionally. She waited for you to meet her halfway. She waited for you to show up without being asked, to choose her without being reminded. And every time you didn't, she chipped away a little more at her love, her hope, her belief in the relationship. Until finally, there was nothing left to wait for. People think love can be won back with effort, but the truth is effort has an expiration date. Timing matters. Consistency matters. Showing up when it's convenient for you doesn't count when she needed you most and you weren't there. You don't get to break someone repeatedly and then expect your hands to be trusted to heal them. By the time you realize what she meant to you, she's already healing. Not out of spite, but because she's tired of living in limbo, tired of feeling like love is a battle she has to fight alone. And that healing doesn't leave room for old wounds to reopen. It doesn't make space for apologies that should have come months ago. It focuses forward. Attempts to fix things only work when someone still cares. And when a woman stops caring, she's not waiting for you to fix anything anymore. She's already fixing herself. She's not trying to save the relationship, she's trying to save herself from ever feeling that way again. Her silence is not an invitation to push harder, it's her goodbye. The softest kind, the quietest kind, the most final kind. When a woman reaches the point where she no longer raises her voice, no longer explains her feelings, no longer reacts to your words or your absence, it's because she's already left in the ways that matter most. Her silence is not empty, it's full of every unsaid thing she used to scream, cry, or beg for you to understand. There was a time when she spoke with emotion, when her words were filled with hope, pain, frustration, and love. She wanted to be understood, to be seen, to be chosen. She tried to explain her needs, her boundaries, her expectations. She tried to make things work. She fought for the relationship with everything she had, even when it meant fighting alone. Every conversation she initiated, every emotional plea she made, that was her holding on. That was her believing it could still be saved. But there's only so many times a person can repeat themselves before they stop. Only so many nights they can cry into their pillow before the tears stop coming. Only so many times they can feel invisible in someone else's presence before they learn to disappear. Her silence is not a lack of feeling, it's the result of too many feelings that went unheard. She's not quiet because she has nothing to say. She's quiet because she realized it doesn't matter anymore. The day she stops arguing isn't the day she stopped caring, it's the day she realized her words held no weight in your world. The day she no longer asks where you've been or why things feel different, or what happened to the love you once shared, that's the day she stopped holding space for the relationship. That's the day she started making peace with the end. Silence is her exit, not in physical steps, but in emotional withdrawal. She might still be there sitting across from you at the dinner table, sharing the same bed, responding to your messages, but she's gone in all the ways that count. Her silence is her boundary, her protection, her healing. It's her way of no longer allowing herself to be hurt by the same things she once tolerated. And when a woman chooses peace over chaos, quiet over conflict, detachment over disappointment, that's when you've truly lost her. You may look back and realize she didn't make a scene, didn't slam the door, didn't leave with fireworks. She just stopped showing up emotionally. She stopped explaining herself. She stopped trying. That's how a lot of strong women leave, not with a storm, but with a silence that echoes louder than any goodbye ever could. Because her silence isn't just absence, it's the final chapter. The moment the story ends not because she didn't love you, but because she finally decided to love herself more.